Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another EarthEcho International virtual career connection featuring a STEMExplore mentor, Shilpa Bhuttu from Collins Aerospace. My name is Casey, and I will be your host this afternoon, and I will be having this wonderful conversation with Shilpa, and I encourage you all to submit your questions so that we can all join in the conversation together. EarthEcho International is a nonprofit organization founded on the belief that youth have the power to change our planet. Now, our programs have reached over 2 million people in 146 countries, and we truly believe that we want to give young people the platforms and the resources to do their great work, to have that power to change our planet. And this program is part of EarthEcho's STEMExplore, which is a program that hopes to ignite and inspire young people to explore STEM careers such as Shilpa's today. She'll be talking about engineering. And we want to thank our program sponsor, Raytheon Technologies, for their support of women in STEM. Now, just a little housekeeping before we introduce our expert today. If you are live in the Zoom, we do have a Q&A feature. So let's use that instead of the chat to submit your questions for Shilpa. If you are joining us on YouTube, please use that chat space to submit your questions there. Now, I also do want to remind everybody that there are a lot of folks online these days. So if we do experience any technical issues, just hang tight and we will be right back. With that being said, also, if you could please remain respectful in those chat spaces, we would appreciate that as well. So let's go ahead and get started. I would like to introduce and welcome our expert today, Shilpa Bhuttu. Shilpa, how are you today? Oh, you're muted.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, hello everyone. Hope everyone's doing great. I know it's been some crazy times, but I hope to get, spend some good time with you here and answer some of your curious questions about engineering. Okay, can't wait to get started.
Wonderful. It's so good to see you, Shilpa. We have had Shilpa on before for STEMExplore, but her program was so popular and her career is really interesting. So we know we're going to have another great conversation with Shilpa today. So Shilpa, to kind of get things started, can you just tell us, do a little introduction, tell us who you are, maybe where you grew up and where you're coming to us live from?
All right, so I'm coming live from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and this is we are located here, and our Collins Aerospace Interiors headquarters is here, and this is where I work, and I'm an associate director of structural engineering, and I'm also a PSP signatory, and I'm going to explain it to you in a bit what that means and what do I do on my job. Um, so my background is I have a bachelor's degree in engineering and I also got a master's degree. Um, so which makes me eligible for this job, I say. And also just to give a little bit background about where I'm from and what country I came from. So you may be right now you're seeing the slide. That's the school I went to where I studied till my 10th grade. And that is Vishakhapatnam, India. And I know it's a kind of a tongue twister. You can try to say it later. I know a lot of my American friends have tried and some have failed, but some have succeeded. Well, it's a beautiful port city, known for its beautiful beaches, and it's nothing like home. I just love that place. But also, Winston-Salem has become my new hometown. I have lived here for 15 years, and obviously, coming from a completely other side of the world, it's been a pretty much a ride, a great ride, I would say. And I've learned so much coming across the seven seas and learning so many things. So a little bit more about my job. Probably in the next slide, we're going to show you something.
So yeah, Shilpa, thank you for that introduction. That was great. I love that you have traveled so far and you're here in the States with us now in North Carolina, but we're going to get to learn a little bit more about Shilpa's story and her career. So we're going to start off with the career aspect. So can you tell everybody out there, what do you do for a living?
So like I said, I'm an engineer. Basically, we crash and burn aircrafts for living. I know it might sound a little harsh, but we are actually trying to do that to save lives. So when you travel on an aircraft, we want to make sure when there's an emergency landing, when there's fire in the aircraft, when there is an emergency situation, we want to make sure every passenger gets out of the aircraft very safe and sound. So we have regulations that FAA, which is the governing agency of the airline industry, which is Federal Aviation Administration, has developed. So there is a whole library of regulations, and based on the type of aircraft, we have different set of regulations that we need to follow. And for me, I basically do a lot of work on the commercial aerospace side. So we follow a regulation called Part 25. So you can imagine there's so many of them out there, and within Part 25, there's so many other regulations. But I do a lot of aspects of Part 25 regulations. So I follow that regulation to ensure this product that we make is safe and gets people off the aircraft safely. So if you ever took a trip on an airplane and you have come home safely, you can thank us.
That's great. And so to get into that a little bit more, can
Mhm.
you share with us what an average day might look like for you?
Yeah, sure. So before I move forward, I also want to add a little bit about, something about me. Like I mentioned before, I've come all the way from India to, to educate, to get education, and also I've settled here in the States. But I also have a beautiful family here with me. I have two girls. Uh, a sixth grader, rising sixth grader, and a first grader. They are the fun of my life, and I know I may sound really nerdy as being an aerospace engineer, but I just also lead a very normal life. I love to cook, hang out with friends, take care of my kids. You can pretty much do anything being an engineer. That's all I'm trying to say.
Lovely. I think that's great.
All
So I
right.
know, Shilpa, to kind of set up an average day for you, I know we have a video. Do you want to set up that video before we get
Yeah.
started?
Yes, please. I mean, my company has done this video and it's just awesome. So I love it.
It is. All right, should we roll tape?
Sure.
Okay, sounds good.
I get to see a crash without being in a crash, and that's pretty cool. I'm Shilpa Botu. I'm one of the certification staff engineers here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. This is it, 125 pounds.
Yeah.
So where FAA delegates us to do some of the test witnessing on behalf of them. This is the weirdest position. I don't want to get in this. My job is to actually come and make sure the test is performed to the regulation and is done right. We don't want any kind of failure in this primary structure, including the seat belt. We work through various departments like design, product support, manufacturing, and test lab. So it's a very dynamic role. It's just not like you sit at your desk all day, but you have to go interact with several people, and that's what I love about this job. We can do some Aspire or Meridian together if you want. I know you. During the crash, we make sure people are safe and they can get out of the aircraft. So it's very cool to see when there is like a crash landing, but everybody survived. I mean, we saved lives. That's what we did, and you can't get more fulfillment than that.
I love that. That's such a great video.
Thank you.
So do you want to talk a little bit more kind of your
Sure.
day today?
Yeah, sure. So that video has been was done like a year or two ago. So now I moved to a big. I have moved up to a different position. I have more responsibilities under me, but my core part of the job still remains the same. So we have a test lab here in Winston-Salem. It's like a state-of-the-art facility. That's what they call it because we have a great crash test lab. It's just really like what happens in an actual crash. So we have ATDs like you're seeing there in the picture there. So those are test dummies, which basically have similar properties of human body. So we put those on the aircraft seats, we buckle them up, and we crash them at 16 Gs, like what would happen in a crash. And then we learn to see what's the survivability, like did the structure just get any damage, or like the ATD survived. What happens if you hit a structure during a crash? Like, would you have a blunt trauma, or would you even survive? Would you have any cuts, or would you have a spinal injury, or would you break your femur? It's very interesting. The amount of data we collect from these tests is like vast, and then the conclusions we draw from them have to meet certain regulations. So it's just not like, you just see something crash and then see, oh yeah, it broke or it didn't break. But you actually have to study the data that you get to draw your conclusions to make sure it's safe. And the most important thing is, aircrafts are very expensive, and the interiors that go into it are super expensive too. But why is interior certification so much more important than anything else in the aircraft? Because it involves people, right? So there are people inside the aircraft. So the interior of the aircraft is what protects you. It's the primary thing that you are kind of interacting with. So that protects you. So it's very important to ensure that we have proper interior structure to ensure the safety of the occupants.
And
So
Shilpa, we
yeah,
have a question coming in
sure,
specifically about the crash test dummies.
sure.
And so the question is, do they weigh the same as an average human? And are there variations of crash test dummies that you actually use?
That's a really good question. So the FAA regulation says you have to use a 50th percentile male ATD. So the size and dimensions of this ATD are kind of given. So the ATDs that we generally use in the aircraft industry are 170 pounds per ATD, and its height about, it measures 5 feet 10 inches. So those are given, but then we also have to make sure we are qualifying for a range of occupants, which is like from a 2-year-old, because you can buy your own seat as soon as you turn 2 years, and airlines are like, make sure they charge you a full price ticket once your kids turn 2. So we have to make sure we ensure the safety of the little kids, and also up to the 95th percentile male, which is like the taller stature people or the bigger people. But most of our testing is done with a 50th percentile male ATD. But
Okay.
there are a lot of tests we do with varying sizes, just to make sure we cover the most of the population out there.
Okay, so that was another question that came in from our friends at Primetime Palm Beach County. They said, do you crash test both adult and children crash test dummies?
Uh, so we do some tests, but not all of the tests are done with like the child, like the 2-year-old and the fifth percentile female or the 95th percentile. But the features within the seat are built in a way to provide protection, and we have protocols that we have to follow to ensure after we run a test that we make sure that the data that we collect is applicable to the small and the large occupant out there. For example, like I'm not sure how many of you have seen, but we have airbags that are built into these seat belts,
Hmm.
just like car seats. So this has been a feature for like 10 years. 10 years ago, I certified a program which had airbags, and it's not a very common thing you see, but you do see in some locations where it's a tight pitch where the seats are closed or you're right next to an exit or something. um, so like the airbag deploys, if the airbag, when the airbag comes up, you have to make sure it is going above your head, right? That way a taller person is covered. So you have different protocols, and you also have to make sure the seat belt is tight and snug enough on a 2-year-old, so that the kids just don't slip through the belt during a crash. So we go through a lot of regulations just to ensure, but we do also do a lot of testing because it requires the FAA regulation is that you have to evacuate the aircraft within 90 seconds of the crash. So can you imagine the whole cabin of the aircraft, like trying to get out in 90 seconds? So we actually run, naive occupant testing, where we call in people who have no background, absolutely no background about aircraft testing, or don't know much about, aircraft escape. So these people could be anyone who could sign up, and they come in, and we run these tests like live. So we create that environment like around in the cabin where we want people to escape out. We time them, we measure. So there's so much testing and so much deal that goes into all this. You should be able to retrieve your life vest within 10 seconds. So if there is a design out there where you're not able, where a naive occupant who has no idea where the life vest is takes more than 10 seconds to retrieve a life vest, it's a failed design.
Wow, that's really incredible. There's a lot of factors and procedures and a lot of considerations that you all have to take while you follow those regulations. So
Yes.
I know you're probably not doing the crash tests all day long. Do you want to expand on some other duties that you have on an average day?
Sure. So as associate director, I'm also like a go-to expert for a lot of questions the new engineers or the senior engineers might have. So most of the day I'm actually working in my office and then like answering questions, reviewing reports, guiding engineers. And of course the fun part is of course the crash testing, which I love to do. But we also like are involved in the design process of these interiors a lot. So as an expert of certification, I go and give advice as like what design would work, what would not work ahead of time, to ensure we save all that money and cost that we would incur after the post design process. And any design changes that have to be made after product has been certified has to come through me or like through my department. And we make sure we sign them off. And FAA has given us a big responsibility. They have delegated a responsibility because they cannot make sure that they can look at each and every single thing out there, because there's so many of these. There are people making engines, there are people making we make the whole interior. And they some people are making fuselages and nacelles and so many things out there. So the way FAA operates in the aerospace industries, they delegate these responsibilities based on your credentials and how your company performs. I mean, I'm sure you guys know about Raytheon Technologies. It's one of the top companies out there, and they have great system. And FAA has trust in our system, and they have trust in the people. So they have given us this delegation under the Partnership for Safety plan. So which is where I come into picture, where I can actually sign off on behalf of somebody from FAA. And then which is basically you sign off and you get a license to fly the aircraft, to put your product on an aircraft that can fly.
That's amazing. So I'm sure this answer might lie in what we're already talking about. What's one of the coolest things you've ever done or seen as part of your job?
Yeah, sure. You're gonna okay. So of course, since there are a lot of kids attending this event, I thought it would be they can relate a little bit if I talk about the engineering design process. Uh, I'm sure you guys learn about engineering design process maybe right in your fifth grade or sixth grade. Uh, that's really the fundamental of it. It never changes. Whether you make a rocket or you're making like a paperclip, it's the same design process that we follow. So basically, we come up with an idea, we imagine an idea, then we make the product, then we test it, then we get the results, we analyze the results, and then we develop it again. So we make it better as we go. I mean, it's the whole basic fundamental principle of engineering is exactly the same, irrelevant of the product. It just gets complicated as you make more complex products. So the basic steps are the same. So basically every engineering company or every engineer fits into one of these parts of the engineering design process. For example, like in this design process, I fit into test and improve, right? And there are people who do design work. So they're design engineers. So they basically create stuff. And we are like the experts who ask questions and do our research and give the feedback so they can actually improve more and create newer designs. So if you are an engineer, you are going to fit into one of these areas. So I thought I would present this because kids can relate more to this since they would have studied this in their sixth grade or so.
I love it.
And and that's one part of the job. But I also do like a lot of helping out engineers, training them, guiding them, assisting them. And also in return, to for me to be here to this day, I have received all this through my in the past to come up here. And it's my job now to give all this to someone else so they could move up. So it's all about um, engineering is like very much dependent about like interpersonal skills. So don't ever think that engineers are like those weird people who would just sit at their desk and don't talk to me, I'm just like doing my work. But it requires a lot of collaboration, team effort, and great interpersonal skills.
That's wonderful. So can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to do the work that you do?
uh, Well, that's a really great question. I have put some slides which kind of give the fundamentals of the question, really, the answer to the question. Um, so I just want to give a little bit background about myself. I'm sure I told you before. I'm from India, and I came from a I have come from a very orthodox and a traditional family. If you guys are familiar with like Indian culture, India is like very diverse, and the population, like you can imagine how it is, like from being really poor to really rich people out there, and people who are very traditional to very outgoing. So but I come from this very middle class, very traditional orthodox family, where the minute you're born and they know you're a girl, all you have to do is wait all your life to for a guy to come and marry you. And just and that's the only dream you're supposed to have. And you're not like really allowed to have good education, because that's considered a privilege for most of the girls. And especially my dad's family is really big, and he has around he has 8 sisters, so I have 8 aunts. So being so many, there are already so many girls in the family. I'm also the second child. Like I have a sister, and by the time the 10th one comes, they're like, okay, we are done. She's going to stay home, cook, clean, and just wait until she gets married. And I didn't want to be one of that girl. So I just wanted to break the stereotype. So I worked very hard to get to where I have to. And then when it came to choose, like, so I finished my high school, and then I got into so you have to take an entrance test in India. How many of us we are. We are billion. We are more than a billion people. So the
Mhm.
competition is very high, and you have to take this entrance test. And when I took the entrance test, I scored really well in my. I had got a good score, and I could go to a good college. And then my dad comes and tells me, "Oh, you're not really doing any mechanical engineering. That's like a boy thing to do." Y- I could get into a lot of engineering fields out there, like computers, instrumentation, electronics. And my dad was like super convinced that mechanical engineering is not for girls. And that's when I decided that's exactly what I'm going to do. uh, because I just wanted to be like, there's nothing a gender of a person would prevent you from doing something. It's there's nothing like that. So that's why the I just wanted to break the stereotypes. So that's the reason, exact reason why I picked this very specialization, where the number of females are very few, which works to my advantage, because obviously you're special. But at the same time, it comes with its own issues, where you are like the one female in the whole male dominated population, and you need to survive through this. I have come from where big girl education is a big no-no, to being the only female in the industry, with a bunch of males around me, in a in a country that's completely not mine. So I think that's a long journey.
Yes, it is. It's extremely inspirational, and I so appreciate your candidness in
Yeah.
sharing that. And so to go along with this, my next question for you are there any hardships you've had to overcome, and how did you do that? Which you've definitely explained some of those hardships, but if you want to talk a little bit more about your background with
Yeah, sure. So, uh, of course, there are hardships, just not for me. I think for every woman out there, or for anybody out there, nothing comes for free. You just get what you actually work for. So I strongly believed in hard work, and I believed, you have to have a plan, and you have to work towards it. Right from my childhood, I always wanted to do something related to space. I'm hopefully one day, I'm going to be part of like a space exploration program. Right now we are like right now limited to what's flying in the atmosphere out there, which are the aircrafts. But I'm hopeful that my company is going to take us there one day. um, so like exactly, this is the best slide that shows from right to education, which I fought for my own right for education in my house. And you know it's just not a one person's battle to have a successful career. It's a family thing. I have received tremendous support from my parents, from my sibling, and from my teachers, and from even people like EarthEcho International that's hosting these programs, like these organizations that bring the inherited talent in you, that inspire people like me. All these things, and add up, and they contribute to a career that, a family, or a person that you build for a nation. It's like all those bits and pieces. So I feel like definitely there are hardships, but there's always, like, with hardships come the bright sides in the, and the opportunities. So I always saw it as an opportunity to develop and improve. And so and now, even now today, I think I've mentioned it before, like how I'm like there are very few females in this field. And I know it. One great thing is, this company is so great, like they empower women. I'm sure you guys know about it. They have their sponsors of women in engineering. And you just being that one female, like when you have a meeting in an office, you're like that one female with like 20 other males in the room. They never made me feel out of place. But also, I never had that put that in mind, that I'm like one person out of this whole group that doesn't belong here. So you just have to take that off. You are just like anyone else, and you can just do anything that other person can do.
So we
uh,
have a question coming in, Shilpa,
sure.
from one of our viewers, and they're asking, do you have any advice for women and girls who want to go into a male-dominated field?
Yeah, definitely. I can really talk to that, because that's exactly where I am. So my advice is, people are not going to make you feel out of place. Don't consider you're different. Just think you're just part of them. You need to have those filters around you. That's exactly how I perform or operate. You just have to have these filters around you. Just let the information that you want to come to you, and forget about the rest, and just keep moving forward. And there are some good things about just being the female in this male dominated profession, because you are obviously the queen, right? You get those you get those benefits. But at the same time, you also like always feel like you don't belong. You know there are going to be issues. I'm not going to say there will be days when you would feel like, oh well, this is frustrating. But that's just not for you. It comes for anybody. It could be to a male. But don't ever assert something that you faced because of to your gender. Don't ever think, oh, this is happening to me because I'm a female, or this is this is how it is because I'm just the one female, that's why they treat me like this. That's not how it is. The minute you kind of exclude yourself out, that's the end of it.
That is very poignant advice of how you perceive yourself, and the confidence you can exude. But that's great. The minute you exclude yourself, they will too. So that's very powerful, Shilpa. Thank you for sharing that.
You're
So
welcome.
to keep on this topic of advice for students, do you have any other advice for students who say want to go into the engineering field themselves?
Yeah, sure. So I've put some stuff together here. So one thing my mom always told me, and that's what I tell my kids today. And I'm sure if my kids have called in and they're listening, and I cannot emphasize more on this, because this one thing has helped me throughout my life. um, so there's She always told me, there's one thing that no one can ever steal from you, and that's your education. So you may get a lot of wealth, which can be taken away one day. Materialistic stuff, people can maybe try to ruin your happiness or whatever, but there is one thing that no one can touch, that's your education. So that one thing has helped me so much. And it has given all that confidence I need to move forward, because I know she has faced a lot of hardships in her life, and she told me she is a degreed person, and that's one degree is what saved her life. And I feel the same way. Today I'm here and I'm talking to you guys, and doing this because I hold an engineering degree. And don't discount learning, keep learning, and your education is your main wealth. And for people who want to pursue engineering as a whole, there is engineer in all of us. So your body is the engine and your mind is the engineer. That's that's an excellent thing, because if you know how to control your body, if you know how to be what you are, you're already an engineer, because you're already riding an engine, and then that's the engineer in you. And if you have played with Legos as a kid in your daycare, or you've done science projects, or it could be like you have worked in your dad's workshop, or you have messed up something in your house, you know that's engineer in you, really. So engineers don't exist outside. Basically, engineers make everything around us possible. This technology we are using right now, we are able to connect to so many people across the world today, just because engineers made it possible. So it's not a profession that exists as a separate thing, but it coexists everywhere. So, but it's not easy. It's just like, I'm gonna cruise through my schooling, and then here comes, I want to be an engineer. It's just not gonna happen that way. So you need to plan, you need to make effort. So to be an aerospace engineer, you need to have 4 years degree from an engineering college. And of course, like for every engineering, you have to have a very strong background in math, especially in physics. And of course, like any job out there, a good problem solving skills, great critical thinking, and most of all, what drives the world today. Like, one thing I've learned, no matter how smart you are, if your interpersonal skills are not great, you're not going to succeed. You just need to know how to deal with people, be that nice person, just move on.
That's great. And we have some questions coming in, so I want to make sure to roll these in here. So one of the questions we have is from our friends at Primetime Palm Beach County, and they want to know, in your current supervisory position, do
Mhm.
you have strong female team members and engineers that you work with?
Yes. So our company has actually done a very great deal trying to, diversify the people we hire, and I have some great female engineers that I work with, and I just look at them and then I see them. Oh, this was me, few years ago, and it's been incredible. We have come up a lot. When I first started, there weren't many. A couple of years ago, I was like the only one, and now we have few more people. Obviously, we are not in the same ratio as the other male engineers, but we are getting there. I think my company, as Raytheon Technologies, is putting a great deal of effort into this to ensure there's a lot of diversity out there. And diversity is one great thing. It just brings so many different ideas to the table. The way I was raised is so different from how you were raised. So you're going to bring something different than me. And, when these all different ideas come together, they create great things. And I feel like Raytheon Technologies believes in that very well, and they're definitely working towards it. I've seen some great positive changes, and we have a women's working group that supports. And then there are some, I have to say this, there are some people like male engineers that I work with, even the other directors, who have supported me. They're like male allies, like they're out there who actually want to make sure you don't feel left out, and they encourage you. I mean, they're great people. I mean, there there are f- there are issues, but then there is also a very good side to everything. So
Absolutely.
just ignore that side and just look at focus on the good side and move forward.
And I really love how much you are emphasizing not only Collins Aerospace, but Raytheon Technologies, the parent company. Just to give them another call out, they are the primary sponsor of STEMExplore for EarthEcho. And so we so appreciate Raytheon Technologies and all that they're doing to support women in STEM, not only within their own company, but outside of it as well. So they're supporting this program and allowing us to bring your story to the world. So I can't appreciate that enough. So
Thank you.
so speaking of kind of exciting things happening in your field, Shilpa, can you tell us what innovation in your field are you most excited about?
Uh, so as far as I'm concerned, I'm really excited about anything like the artificial intelligence. So my company is putting a great deal of resources and and time and effort into touchless systems. Like with the new pandemic, that has hit us, and the air travel has come to a stall pretty much. They want to make sure we feel safe to fly, and they are working into a lot of touchless systems, and everything they could do to make passengers feel safe when they start to fly back again. So that's a great thing, and it's going to make passengers feel safe. And then obviously today we are making, it's all about traveling from one country to the other just within earth, but one day hopefully we will be traveling between planets and moon, and then I can't wait to be an engineer on some of those programs where we are actually shuttling people to the moon or to the Mars. So that's I hope that happens in my lifetime, and I'm like really excited. If I would be able to be part of it, I will be so thankful and grateful.
That's great. And that is definitely one of my my passions that I like to watch as well. All of the progress that we're making with space and the things that we're doing nowadays. It's really amazing, and to see, live streams of launches and things like that. So that's super exciting. And I couldn't agree more. I would love to see you at the helm of a space project. That'd be so great.
Oh, that would be my dream come true.
Oh, I love it. So before we do have some questions coming in from our audience. And before we get there, can you just tell us how your work contributes to a sustainable future?
Yeah, sure. So the amount of work we put in, so the goal here at like Collins Aerospace is to make designs that are environmentally friendly. So we are continuously working on weight reductions to consume less fuel. And of course, that is the primary thing, is to save what Mother Earth has given to us. And they are very, we also have regulations that govern how you dispose things and what kind of materials you have to use. Some earth friendly materials. And then of course all this work we are doing one day is going to help us move into space programs. And a lot of the engineers that work in space technology are really aerospace engineers, because the science behind it is the same. So all this effort we are putting in is great. And then all this work I'm doing today is a sustainable cause, because I want to make sure there are girls out there who are like me, just waiting to see if they could be helped out. So some of the things I have done or I do is like, there is a program in India where you get to teach underprivileged kids. So these kids, their parents are not literates, so you can be a volunteer, you can teach to these kids in India. So I choose to do that because I feel it's very rewarding, and I want to give back to the society what I've got. And I think, like I said, education is something that no one can steal. I don't mind donating money, but I feel like giving education is like teaching them how to fish. So I think it's going to be, this is a, you know giving your time and giving your education is one of the best causes to help the society is what I feel. And I've also organized some seminars. I do some volunteering work, teach math at at an elementary school. It's one of the rundown schools, and there are some kids who need a lot of help out there. um, so everything, but I'm also a mom of two kids, and I have this job. I stay busy, but every little time I find, I see what I can do, to make the best use of it. And doing this program, I can't thank EarthEcho enough, like, for giving me this opportunity, really. you know Usually I connect to few kids, but this has given me a platform to connect to so many kids. So this is like really fulfilling.
That is wonderful. And just to note for folks out there, all of our virtual programs, we do record them. So this will be on our YouTube channel as well as STEMExplore.org. So you can listen to Shilpa's story again. And so we so appreciate you, Shilpa. We love having you on and hearing your story, but also hearing about your career. And speaking of that, we have some questions.
Sure.
So our friends at Primetime Palm Beach County again want to know, do you crash test new aircrafts and current aircrafts? And if the answer is yes, how often do you continue testing with aircrafts that are already in use?
So aircraft can only go into use only after it has been tested fully. It has a life term, and there are like maintenance procedures that have to be followed to keep the aircraft flying and in good condition. And it's almost like your car. You have to have your servicing done. You have to make sure you change your oil. If not, the warranties expire, or like your car is not going to run. That's exactly how aircraft work. So we don't test like aircrafts that are flying right now because they have already been certified. But when the airlines want to make changes, for example, if the airline has decided that they want to put more seats in the cabin, or they want to make some good changes to the cabin, and then we retrofit them. That's called retrofitting an aircraft, and we often do that. So that would require not a full scale of testing, but some testing. So we have a test lab here that pretty much runs, other than the weekends, the whole year. And we run anywhere from 3 to 5 tests a day. And it just goes on and on. And it's like we have so many airlines that are our customers, ranging from the 4 major airlines in US to anywhere, some airlines in Africa. And it could be like Iceland Air. Some airlines have never even heard of. So we have customers all over the world. um, you know there are aircraft flying has become like an essential. uh, Most of us have taken a flight sometime in our life, or maybe more than once. And it's just become part of our everyday routine, really. Like, cars are now like every household has a couple of cars in their house, or at least one car. Especially in the US, it's very different in India. But so just flying has become so common. um, and I think once this pandemic is over, I think the airline industry, I'm very hopeful that the airline industry is going to come back strong, because it's become part of our life. And how long can people stay inside their house? Everyone wants to go on a vacation, and I can't wait for those days to come back.
Absolutely, I agree. We have another question coming in from Michaela. So this is about crash testing with cars. So maybe you could apply this to what you do, or maybe you could just answer this question.
Sure.
So Michaela's question is, if a car were to crash into a wall,
Mhm.
what would have the most damage? So maybe she's asking to the dummy itself, or
So the goal of any crash test is to save the occupant, right? So we don't want any damage to the occupant whatsoever. This is basically the same thing we do on an aircraft. um, so we don't want any major damage to the occupant or the structure surrounding the occupant. Because it's just not, you want to be able to exit out of the aircraft or the car once the crash happens. you know let's say there was a crash and the person got saved, but he or she are not able to get out of the car. uh, and the car catches on fire or something explodes, you haven't really saved a life. So the damage, so there are absorbers, there are like attenuation devices that are put to absorb the energy that comes from hitting a wall. um, that's why we have airbags to protect the occupant. So if there were no airbags, there
absolutely.
is this the survival is almost zero. um, so that's why it's always important to buckle up. So you maybe in one of those pictures you have seen how the test dummies fly. The only thing that's holding them onto the structure is just the seat belt. That's the reason why the flight attendants make sure to check that did you put is your seat belt on for taxi, takeoff, and landing. So look at that, like if there is no belt, these ATDs would have been in the air.
So moral of the story today is, especially with this photograph, buckle up.
Yes, it's very important. It's a safety feature. It's just not kind of nice to have, but it's like a must have. So very important. Buckle up. I have never slacked buckling up my kids into car seats. After I've taken this profession, I know how important it is, and that is like the primary thing. So if you don't buckle up, there's nothing that can really save you.
Well, that's good, a very good message. Thank you so much. Oh, and here's one more question to ask. Why are the seatbelts in an airplane different from seatbelts in a car? That's a great question.
I know it's a very, very good question. So the seat belts in the car are shoulder belts, like you pull them from the shoulder and you buckle, they're of course more safe for you because they reduce your motion going forward in time of a crash. But aircraft, the key difference between an aircraft and a car is an airplane flies in the air. So there is a big factor when you want to fly something in the air, that's the weight. So we want to minimize on the weight of the structure. So when you put a shoulder belt on an aircraft seat, there is so much load that goes into the back structure. You have to make it really strong, and that can add a lot of weight. So that's the very reason why most of the structure from your seat belt and above is all like made of composite, which are very lightweight materials, and they're great materials, but we don't have a lot of data like just like regular metals. So we usually tend to go with a shoulder belt, but there are some seats in the aeroplane that are out there, usually in the business class, where you have a shoulder belt, because in business class people are paying more money and they get a bigger seat, and you can add little more weight to it, and you can go use a shoulder belt. And also some of the business class seats are like not facing forward, but they could be facing the side or at an angle. In that case you have a greater risk at injuring your neck when you're in a crash. So having that shoulder belt kind of protects you more.
That makes sense. That was great. Wow, that was a really great question. Well, everybody out there that is tuning in, first of all, we thank you for joining us today, but we want to make sure that you can connect with Shilpa. So you can check out collinsaerospace.com, Shilpa's company that she works for in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And also Shilpa was kind enough to give us her email. So if anyone is really interested, please reach out to Shilpa. I'm sure she would be happy to answer any of their questions that you might have. Like she said, she values education and setting that pace. And Shilpa, we want to thank you again for being such a wonderful role model and a STEMExplore mentor, and for sharing your story and your career with us today.
Thank you, Casey. I'm really, really thankful for EarthEcho International for giving me this great opportunity to connect to so many wonderful kids out there. I know because of the privacy issues, we're not able to see the kids, but I'm sure whoever heard this story, at least I hope I inspired one person out there. And even if I can inspire one person, I feel that's great. And you guys are doing a great deal of work to the society, and I just hope companies like yours flourish and take this whole world into a great right direction.
Well, thank
So
you, Shilpa.
it's just an honor to work for you guys or to do anything for you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. That's very meaningful, and we appreciate it so much, and we appreciate your time, and we love having you on for STEM Explorer. And everyone else out there, feel free to connect with EarthEcho. Please connect with EarthEcho. You can follow us on all of our social media channels. If you're there on YouTube, please smash that subscribe button. As my friend Vivi Rose says, smash that subscribe button before you leave, so then you get all of our alerts when we have new content online. And also, if you follow us on social media and check out our website, you can see all of the wonderful programming that we have, including more virtual programming that we will have scheduled in the future. So on behalf of EarthEcho International, please stay safe, stay healthy, and keep exploring. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.